And glad you're here with us for our latest webinar. It is called Using AI for Scholarships. And I am super excited that we have an AI expert with us to give us some pointers, Ranola Swoboda. So we will be going through information fairly quickly and then recording this and posting it on our YouTube channel for future viewing. And at the end of the presentation, we'll have some time for your questions. All right, so just a quick intro. My name is Carol Trone, and I serve as Executive Director of the Wisconsin Coalition on Student Debt, otherwise known as Debt Smarts. And if you want to know who we are a statewide nonprofit organization. We're committed to helping students minimize their student loan debt and for borrowers to avoid unmanageable student loan debt. So for instance, today's session is going to help you find scholarships to minimize that debt. So examples of ways that we help. So before college, we offer FAFSA help. There's a virtual session actually tomorrow that is on our website that you can sign up for. We run a Money Smart essay contest. If you're in college, we help you find scholarships and give you budgeting tips. And then after college, we run a free confidential expert student loan helpline. And you can access that anytime from Monday to Friday from 8 to 4:30. We'll have that phone number on a slide at the end.
Perfect. So I'll jump in. My name is Ranola Swoboda, as Carol has just mentioned, and I've been doing digital marketing and all sorts of marketing for very many years. I've worked with both large and small organizations, and I try to keep on the cutting edge of AI as much as anyone can because it's constantly changing. So I'm just thrilled and excited to be able to bring some additional information to you all about how to potentially leverage AI for finding scholarships. So what we'll talk about today a little bit is AI basics and terms, using AI for scholarships, creating a custom GPT, best practices and questions. So one thing I want to note as we go through this is that the presentation is built in the first person. And this means that if you're a student, a parent, a school administrator, or an other role, you'll assume the role of the individual that's looking for the scholarship. This way you can do it yourself, or you can support somebody doing it because you understand how it's constructed. So let's jump right in. So let's start with by thinking about the basics of AI. Think of AI as teaching computers to learn patterns and make decisions in ways that resemble human thinking. It doesn't think the way you or I do, like a person, but it can recognize patterns and it can make predictions and it can generate responses based on what it's learned from large amounts of data. So how do you translate that in a way that maybe makes sense for folks on this call? Imagine if you hire an apprentice who can read millions of books, can review tons of conversations, photos, and examples in a very short period of time, like seconds. At first, they don't know much, but the more examples they study, the better they get at recognizing the patterns. So eventually they can help answer questions, they can sort through images, they can write things for you, they can suggest ideas. So AI works similarly, and it learns from examples rather than experiences. So when you're working with AI, you're training it, it's using its pattern building technology that it's got built in, and it's predicting a generation of a response to whatever query that you've asked. So if you play around at all with AI, you're starting to understand it's a really powerful resource because they make the scholarship process a little bit easier. Before AI, you could go on the internet and you can search for scholarships, but you probably have like a bunch of tabs open. This is one way to kind of put everything in one spot, so you're not spending hours scrolling through tons of websites, maybe getting lost and overwhelmed by all the resources that you have to keep track of. It helps you to narrow down the opportunities, and it matches things like background, your state, majors, whatever it is you're looking for that is unique to you, and putting it in one area, one spot. But as we go through this, I just want to I'm going to be calling out a couple of important notes. The first one I want to start with is as we start thinking about AI for scholarships, the general thing I see out in the world is people are like, great, this can write things for me and do things for me. It can assist in filling out, drafting, managing forms and things like that, but it should be used as a supporting tool rather than a total replacement. There's a couple reasons for that we'll kind of discuss as we go through this. But one thing to note right off the bat is AI is an affirming tool, so it wants to keep you happy. And it tries really hard to give you what you're looking for quickly. So I want you all to use the tool, but trust and then verify. So they're predictive models and they don't always get it right, even though they come out confidently like this is the information. So I think people may have seen it where AI makes videos and suddenly a person has 6 fingers on one hand. So it's things like that where it's like, okay, they may have gotten it right, but it's always a good idea to trust, but then verify. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this. So let's learn some of the lingo here. We're calling it terms of service. It's kind of the terms you use to clearly navigate the services you'll receive in AI. So a prompt is the input you provide to get the relevant response or action that you're hoping to receive. The context is the background info to get better answers. Those are like a handshake. They work hand in hand together. So there's a question, and then you build upon that question by adding additional context. Custom GPTs. Now, for today's conversation, we're really focusing on GPT because right now that's the thing that most people are using. You could use Perplexity, you could use Grok, you could use Gemini. And instead of it being called a custom GPT, it might be called a gem. So just keep that in mind for whichever tool this can translate back and forth. But a custom GPT or whatever it's called in the tool that you're using is a specialized version of the tool that you can tailor for a specific purpose and it works for you. There's also agents that you can set up, and those work across steps and complete tasks more independently. So a custom GPT is like a customized helper, and an agent is a helper that can run through the whole process. So what does that mean in practice? There's different modes within AI. And if you look here on the screen, you'll see the different ones that are available. These are changing constantly, but this is kind of relevant to what we're talking about today. Searching the web or browsing, it fetches up-to-date information and credible sources. So an example prompt of this would be find the most recent breakthroughs in battery technology. Then there's deep research, where you want to generate like a structured multi-step report using multiple sources and so on. So prompt for that would be prepare a market comparison leading cloud security providers. And then vision, this is just with images, like I want you to take a look at this picture and suggest ways to redesign it. So I won't go too far into that, but I think people have seen that in action quite a bit. Data analytics or code interpreter, if you're into that, which we're not talking about today, but that is one of the modes where it processes spreadsheets, which could apply if you have spreadsheets of scholarships and data sets to produce charts. So a prompt for that would be analyze the sales data set and show trends over the past year. File uploads are just that. Perhaps you're going through something, there's a ton of pages that you want it to be summarized. You can upload into the tool and it can do that for you. And then Canvas, which is a collaborative workspace, where if you are co-creating something, this is a place where you can draft responsive things and it can help you input chunks of information into whatever it is you're drafting. And then agent mode, which we talked about before, which is where it handles multi-step tasks such as researching options, comparing results, and planning activities. So a prompt for that would be plan a 2-day Paris itinerary with restaurants, museums, and local events. So when you hear some of this lingo, hopefully this helps you. If you want to grab a screenshot of this, go for it. But like Carol said, this will be available. But if this helps you understand the different ways AI can work, and some AIs are better at some of these things than others. We're primarily going to be talking about web browsing and potentially some agent opportunities here. So let's transition a little bit and now applying what you've learned, the kind of the basics to AI for scholarships. We all understand why scholarship matters. These are conservative numbers at the very top here of averages for in-state schools, out-of-state schools, and what private schools can look like. like I said, conservative numbers. Some of the numbers are way higher than this, depending on what field you're in or what your study is or how long you're in school. So we understand that even small scholarships that are $500 can help pay for textbooks. And of course, it's money you don't have to pay back. So we understand kind of the very basics of AI, why scholarships matter. So what's next? What you're going to want to do before you begin, because we understand that, scholarships can be a tremendous part of post-secondary funding, is that you want to kind of get some ducks in a row. There are things that you as an administrator, a student, or whatever role that you have, you just know off the top of your head. There's other things that you may have to prepare for. So one of the things is a potential major. So as a student, for example, you may have an interest or an idea where you're going or what you're wanting to do, but you may not have the actual major. So that might be something you have to think about. Something else to note that's interesting about when you think about your interest or majors is that different institutions have different names for some of the potential majors. So let's say you're doing video game development. Someone might call that computer engineering or computer science. If you're doing something else like business engineering, somebody else might call that business administration. So take some time with that, figure out what your major is or what you want to put into your prompt and your context. If you want to do national versus local scholarships, something else that you can look into as well. You can do both. There's nothing against doing both, and you can organize each search separately, but something good to pay attention to. Schools you're thinking of attending, if you're not quite sure, then that would be something to start thinking about. And also your academic, athletic, and community achievements, because if I was a freshman through senior, I don't know that I would remember all the things that I did. So it's a great idea to just take a moment and put a list together. Now, when you're building your list, you can pick whichever engine or AI you want to work with. It's like I just said today, we're working with ChatGPT, and we're going to be talking with, when you're talking with ChatGPT, there's a couple things to know. If you're talking with just chat, you go there and it's the free version of it. You can play around with building your prompt and your context. Free version of most tools do have limits. Like I believe Chats is you can do 10 messages in the first 5 hours. And that's why it's even more important for when you're building your prompts to kind of have these pre-thoughts filled out so that when you get in there, knowing that you can only do so many prompts in a free version, regardless of tool, that you have as much information ready to go and you're able to create your prompts a little bit faster, more concisely and strategically. If you're creating a paid or a GPT or a GEM or whatever the terminology is for depending on the tool, that is a paid version. It's like creating a buddy that's going to do some of the lifting for you. So a couple things on this. If you do decide to go with the paid version of GPT, they do already have GPTs created. There's a library of GPT. Most tools do have this. And you can take a look to see if that buddy already exists before you start to build from scratch. If that's the case, you can duplicate that information and tweak it with the information that you learn here today. And for all of these, regardless of what you do, you should not set it and forget it. You're going to want to make a schedule of when to apply, reminders, and priorities. It's going to help you stay organized and help you stay intentional about what you're doing when you're thinking about scholarships. So now that we have this information, how do we think about building a profile? So if you take a look here and feel welcome to grab a screen grab of this, for example, this is some of the things that you can then think about how you build your prompts in your context. Where do you live, the state and the city? What's your GPA, your year in school? Major and career interest, activities and leadership, work experience and volunteering, financial need, family situation, extracurriculars, hobbies, or special skills. And special statuses like first generation or minority or veteran. And you can leverage all of this information. Now, when you go into these tools, I mentioned that they are learning tools. So keep that in mind. Share as much or as little information as you're comfortable with. You can build out hypotheticals. You can do things that are similar to you. It should still pull the same information. But I think when searching for a scholarship, most of the information that you're putting into these tools is pretty innocuous. But I just would be remiss if I didn't share that it's always learning. So let's jump into next. Prompts and context. So Now that you have all that information gathered and you go into the tool, whether it's free or not, you're like, okay, how do I get started? If you're building on a prompt, this is an example of this is okay, but we can do better. Find me a scholarship. If you put that into any AI, it's going to come back and it's going to be the same experience as if you had many, many tabs open. You're going to want to, that's going to give you a ton of information and it might be overwhelming. So it's okay, but we can do better. A better example is find scholarships for students interested in fine arts. You notice that we've already added qualifier fine arts. Look for both national and Wisconsin. We're telling you, okay, it's okay to mix it with whichever location these scholarships come from. It's totally fine. Look for both national and Wisconsin-based opportunities. Look for scholarship that supports sculptors. So we went from fine arts and narrowed it down to sculptors. And so you see how the context is helping to ask the question of find me a scholarship, but here's some parameters to consider. And then an example of a best, like you can always improve on this. So this is not like the end all be all, but it's a best practice. So my goal is a curated list. Already you've started telling the AI, hey, this is how I want this to be organized. Otherwise, it'll organize it however you want. The way my brain works, I like it in a nice chart, so I put a curated list. Please find me active, and active is important because when you do a search on Google or any place, if you don't put specific details in there, sometimes, especially in AI, it's going to look for everything that it can get you within the parameters. And sometimes scholarship notifications and information are out there and they're closed. So it could pull in potentially non-active scholarships. I'm not saying it's going to do it even with this keyword. I'm not saying that it's never going to happen because some people don't put the dates on the information that the crawlers crawl, but this at least helps put a little bit of a filter on there to make it better results for you. Okay, so we're looking for an active Wisconsin. So we highlight that because we're, again, talking about the location. Base scholarship for fine art majors with financial need. We're adding more qualifiers in there. Focus on sculpting, which we did before. Include national scholarships for first generation. So I'm hoping that you're seeing that the detail that I'm adding here kind of makes it more robust. First generation college students with GPA 3.5 or less. The reason why we want to add 3.5 or less in that specific kind of information is because now that opens you up to every scholarship at the 3.5 requirement and anything under it. If you were to say GPA 3.5, the AI may not understand like anything below that as a requirement for the scholarship is also okay to share. So that's why that kind of is helpful to put in there. And then please list and compare deadlines, required materials, and time needed to support building a calendar plan. So now you're telling it how to organize it. And then a next step of, hey, I'm going to want to put this in my calendar so that I can use this in a way that makes sense to how I stay organized. When you do that, if you are in a paid ChatGPT and you're creating a GPT, you can set it up to get reminders. So the GPT or the GEM or whatever you're using can send you email reminders of like, hey, you set up this crawl for scholarship and you wanted me to remind you that once a week to come back in here and check this to see if there's new information. And it can send you an email and just give you a heads up or a reminder like, oh, that's right, I'm being intentional about this and this is a helpful thing for me. So you set up that information when you are doing your custom GPTs or your GEMs. If you are in a paid if you are in a free version of GPT, it can create those charts for you, but it's a more manual experience where you have to be like, okay, I'm just going to add this to my calendar and I'm going to do copy paste, set it up and keep myself organized. So one thing I will say is that there are ways to add extensions to give AI access to add events to your calendar. Some are free, some are paid. Either way, you have to research how much access you're comfortable with giving it because certain security features and organizations could be roadblocks to this. And that's why I'm not going to go too much into how you would set that up or connect that. But please feel welcome to look into that if that's something of interest for you. A lot of these tools can do a lot more to help you stay organized, but you have to give to get. And so just take a look and see what you're comfortable with setting up and what you're open to giving access to if you're interested in having it be more of an assistant in that way. So now we've talked about all the kind of things to build a prompt to get the information that you're looking for. You're going to create your prompt. You're going to add context. We're going to create a plan and schedule it, or have it send you updates and notes. And then you're going to repeat as needed or as often as you'd like. If you want it to give you, if you're in a paid version of these tools and you want it to give you an update every day, it can do that. You can set different parameters to have the tool do that for you. So just repeat as needed. Continuing with our best practices, be specific. Context is very important. It's going to get you better responses. It's going to get you better results. It's going to save time when you're pulling, a lot of information, and it is potentially overwhelming looking for scholarships with everything else people have going on. So if the more specific you can be, the better results you're going to have. And here's a quick reminder, or not reminder, but just something to know about AIs is that they tend, if you have a long conversation, a long chat, a long GPT, whatever that looks like, and you've been having this conversation for some time, it is a good idea to remind your chat to remember the context if it's long, because they can forget. So you just need to say something like, review the previous content and commit to memory. That's enough for it to go back in the conversation you've previously had, pull everything together and have it say, aha, okay, so this is relevant. Now let me take what I've learned so far to further help with this conversation. Brainstorm. Use the chat, gem, others to write your, don't use them to write your essays. Use it to build upon your ideas. You can use it to do things like rewrite for clarity, conciseness, tone, audience. You can ask it for brainstorming. You can help pick a topic or frame your story in ways that best align with selection committees and things of that nature. But don't have it write for you, because remember, this is a generative tool. Whether it's generative or it's pulling information from other sources, it's always learning. So some of the information it might generate itself, and some of the information it might be pulling from other sources, because unless you specifically ask where did you get this information from, it's just going to give you the response. So it's a good idea to just write your responses and partner with the tool to get the absolute best essay content that you need to pull together to help you with your application. And then you can also use it to brainstorm resources to support what you're looking to do. And then staying organized, whether it's free or paid, this can help you stay organized, and it can help you be consistent with whatever it is that you're doing. So continuing on our best practices, what we've talked about today is literally just scratching the surface. Go out there, play around with the tools you have available to you. They change pretty rapidly in the things that they're doing. I'm pretty sure there'll be more features tomorrow, or maybe even later this afternoon. That's as quickly as they are changing. So go around and play with the tools. Don't be afraid to explore. There's no dumb questions that you can ask any of these things. To ease your mind, if you're like, I don't know where to start, I asked once for it to tell me what a banana is, just to understand how it structured things. And it was interesting to see how it explained it, and asked like the audience that it would go to. Like, is this for kindergartners? Is this for somebody who's a molecular biologist and they want to connect this to something? Like, give me more information. It will always have questions at the end to help you try to also figure out what next steps look like. And then when in doubt, have the AI tell you what it needs to help you. Here is a reverse prompt that you can grab a screenshot of. If you're not sure, have it tell you how to best work through these things. If you're like going through the things we've talked about today and you're like, this is not quite working the way I thought it would, or I missed a step, or whatever that looks like. So you can put a reverse prompt in there. I need help with whatever your task is. Before you help me, ask me 3 to 4 questions to ensure you have all the context needed to give me the best possible output. Ask one question at a time and wait for my answer before asking the next. That is a reverse way of building out the prompts that we sort of talked about today. It's more back and forth, and if you're in a free version, it can eat up the amount of opportunities you have to ask questions, but it's a good place to start, and it bodes to the idea of give yourself time when you're looking for scholarships, regardless of what you're using, whether it's AI or manually. You need time to prepare for these things. So that is pretty much what I have today. I'm going to share some information about the coalition in case anyone is interested in getting the helpline that Carol did talk about a bit earlier. And I don't know if you have anything you want to jump in here and say, Carol. But
Only that, so terrific information. Just wanted to share. So the phone numbers that you're seeing on your screen, that 833-589-0750, when you call that helpline, you'll be connected with almost no delay to a live person. And you can ask any kind of general questions that you may have. So things like, how do I see what my loan balance is? How do I know who my loan servicer is? How do I know, what payments have been applied? So they'll help you navigate those. And then the general number is really for our organization. So, use the helpline if you have specific questions. And then you can also email. So if calling Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30 doesn't work with your schedule, you can also email us at studentloanquestions@debtsmarts.org, and you'll get a written response within a day.
fantastic. And then just a quick heads up, Carol mentioned this before, but there are some additional upcoming webinars that's hosted by DebtSmarts. So if anyone is interested, please take a look at those. And if you need to reach us, we're on social media. If you have questions about this or any other webinars, feel welcome to reach out. But if there are any questions, feel welcome to put them in the chat, and I can hang out for a little bit and see if I can help anyone that potentially has questions.
And also feel free to unmute yourself if that's easier. We're a small enough group.
Yes, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Maria.
So the paid chat tool, you know the average for that, like do highly rated or the version will be helpful?
I couldn't quite catch the question. Could you, Carol?
No, I'm sorry, Maria. It was cutting out a little bit. Maybe it might be better if you can put it in the text, just because we couldn't catch it all.
I think maybe she was asking about the potential costs around ChatGPT. If that's the case, I can share that if you're a student or an organization, they do have some free options that you can use the expanded version of ChatGPT. I think for students, they give you like a 2-month trial window. You have to provide some information, maybe like your student ID or something like that. But they do have options before you get to a point where you're outright paying for it. So there's the free, there's options for folks in school or that work for schools. And then there's like the regular paid option where it's like, I don't think it's very expensive. I think it's $20 per month, and you get 150, 60 messages specific to ChatGPT, and then it goes up from there. So not sure if that's your question, but if it's not, throw it in the chat. I'll stay hanging out in case people do have more questions. Okay, great. That was her question.
And then just for everyone on this webinar, and actually folks who registered but are not listening to me say this, what you will get afterwards is a record or a link to this recording. And then we do place those recordings of this webinar and all of our webinars on our YouTube channel. So you can find it. Our handle is @DebtSmarts, plural. So
thanks everybody for joining us today. I think we're at time.
Thank you, Renola. This was great. I took tons of screenshots myself, and I always learn from you. So thank you for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you for having me, everyone. I appreciate everyone attending. Have a great day.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.